Greetings YouTube, this is Toy Customizer Wake Angel 2001 bringing you the third part of Supersonic Boom 1996's SATAM commission, Bunnie Rabbot de Culotte. Yes, she has that name now because she's married to Antoine in the comic book. Sorry if I spoiled that for you, but hey, if you're not reading the comic book, then, well, you know, I say unkind things to you. Like the other members of the SATAM cast, Bunnie was introduced to us in the pilot of the cartoon series. When the show proper started, the only real difference was a more muted color palette, just like with Rotor. The thing that always made Bunnie special is that her legs and left arm had been roboticized. How this had happened to her was never really explained on the show itself, although if you have the DVD box set, and you go into the extras menu, you can see an animatic that shows her being put into a roboticization chamber and it being shut down by an overload just as half of her body is affected. So that was going to be the opening credits sequence, but it was changed, and they went with the other one that's famous, Blue Streak speeds by. Of course, she wasn't actually in the first or second issues of the comic. She was introduced in issue 3, where she was just a rabbit who was doing some farming when some SWAT bots caught her and put her into a portable roboticizer. Sonic was able to shut it off, but not after her legs and arm had been turned mechanical. So her origin was explained in the comic book. And oh yes, she's also the last member of the SATAM group to make a cameo appearance in the Spinball game. Of course, Bunnie had a lot of development over the course of the comic book series, primarily being that her robotic limbs had been weaponized by Rotor, giving her the ability to fly and use energy weapons such as the pulse cannon. This is from issue 39, fighting against Mecha Sonic. And an important story point came in the Sonic Girls special. Bunnie had a short solo story in there where she lost consciousness, and it turned out that her roboticized limbs were starting to get rejected by the organic half of her body. If left untreated, she would eventually lose the ability to control them, and then they would become toxic to her flesh. She had the option of either amputation, roboticization attempt, which was highly experimental and could be fatal because of the modifications done to her limbs in the interim, or removing the roboticized limbs and replacing them with cybernetics. With Antoine's encouragement, she went with option 3, and Nate Morgan replaced her roboticized limbs with cybernetic ones, which would be a major change to her character design and kind of represent her conviction. She pretty much resigned herself to being half mechanical for the rest of her life. So besides various artists' interpretation of what her new mechanical limbs look like, this is Tracy Yardley's work here, Bunnie's character change would continue into growing her hair out and having a new outfit consisting of a jacket and a cowboy hat. Looks very, very chic. The really interesting stuff happened in very recent issues of the comic book series, where in a battle against Titan Metal Sonic, Ixis Naugus accidentally crystallized most of her body. This is at a time when he's trying to portray himself as the benevolent ruler of Knothole Kingdom, so as a show of good faith, he went into her hospital room and attempted to reverse the crystallization. He ended up accidentally de-roboticizing her. Now, some people may wonder how that's possible because those were cybernetic limbs, not roboticized ones, but there is a precedent for this when Enerjack used chaos energy to do the exact same thing to the Dark Legion. Now, since then, Bunnie hasn't had much of an opportunity to do things, but whatever the future holds for her, I personally wish her well. Alright, so Bunnie's body would start out as waves, seen here with her little necklace cut off, and of course I enhanced her bust line a little bit to be more bunny-ish, and you can see the belt buckle, once again taking advantage of Wave's little muffin top, and she's just a fluffy rabbit tail away from being a body. The legs are just Sonic's. As you can see, I fabricated a little bit of the mechanical detailing on her calves, and aside from that, they're just painted silver. So not too complicated a job until you get to the feet. Due to their unique shape and size, Bunnie's feet had to be completely scratch built. I went with the three-toed look that Tracy Yardley was so fond of, and once made, making them all square like that's actually a lot harder than it looks. I simply drilled little holes so that the ankle pegs from the Sonic legs could go into them, and again, painted them silver. Some people who collected Burger King toys back when Cubix was on TV may recognize this hand as coming from one of the Cubix robots, specifically the one that's a top. It was the perfect design to match Bunnie's left hand, so lop it off and stick it onto a shadow arm. The right arm is identical to Princess Sally's right arm. It's just a Tails hand with the glove cuff cut off. And then there's a little bit of extra sculpting. I had to add the cuffs of the jacket sleeves, and in the case of the mechanical left arm, I had to add the mechanical looking bits from her forearm, and then paint it right up. Oh, and you gotta remember to include the wedding band, because the wedding band is something that she has now. No artist forgets it. The jacket is very similar to Scourge's or Princess Sally's, except that this time it's cut out of a little piece of faux leather from a glasses case. Again, the sleeves are painted on. The jacket is just kind of draped over the shoulders, and it's not really designed to close because, comic book characters don't close their jackets. That's not cool. The head, of course, started off as a Tails head. Bunnie actually has the same number of cheek tuft points, so I didn't have to change it this time. What I did do was give her, eyelashes and hair, which included a couple of bangs. By Commissioner's request, she was to have the braid look rather than the loose hair. So as you can see, I added a little hole to the back in which a braid made out of foam, craft foam, could be inserted. Craft foam being a flexible material that can be painted. And speaking of painted, once her head is done up, it's actually a little bit difficult to do because, between the highlights around her eyes in purple and having to paint around her bangs and all that, this isn't exactly an easy paint job. But let's move on to her charming new hat. The hat is a complete scratch build, made in 3 parts: the brim, the main part of the hat, and the rope that's tied around it. And it's painted up in brown and red and stuck on her head. I wanted some of her bangs to show so that it rides up a little bit higher than it probably would, which means that when I attached her ear, besides just the part that sticks out above the hat, which is what you normally see in the comic, I also had to include a little bit of what shows below the hat in order to make it look convincingly connected to her head. Quick work in progress shot of the ears. I gave them primer because as pink and yellow they, are hard to paint. And then, attached to her head, we have the completed Bunnie Rabbot. Or should I say Bunnie Rabbot de Coulette, because she is married to Antoine, despite some soap opera-ish politics which resulted in Princess Sally almost marrying Antoine's evil twin, and her sleeping with Sonic's evil twin. Boy, was that quite a story arc. But if you really want to know, just read the comic from 250 to 28, not 250, from 150 to 180 something. That's when all that happened. And it's she really is one of my favorite characters from the original cartoon and the comic book, and I'm just glad to make her. I might make another one for myself later on, but without that hat. This is Toy Customizer Wake Angel 2001 signing off.